Yo, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be ranking every single CDL team, just kind of giving my opinion on them, whether I think they're good, they're great, they have potential, everything, whether they should have a roster change, all that good stuff. We're going to be going in alphabetical order, starting off with the CDL Minor 1 champions. It's going to be your boys Atlanta FaZe. What a team. I'm an Optic fan, and this team's looking scary. When they looked a bit more vulnerable at the start of the season, I had higher hopes as an Optic fan. You know, Optic FaZe, big rivalry, and I thought we were going to be ahead. However, that 1v4 from Simp, that 1v4 for Simp, I think we're going to talk about the end of the season as probably the most important pinnacle part of the year, because I do believe something sparked. Once that 1v4 happened, we saw a spark in that team. I honestly believe if I was a fly on the wall there and I could hear inside the comms, this is what I actually think what happened. Simp got the 1v4 against Miami. They started laughing and said, bro, are we serious? Like, we're losing to these guys? And they just got the craziest confidence just like that, and I believe they just carry that momentum, and they're like, oh wait, we are godlike, like we are the best team in the game, what are we doing? And they just started frying everyone, and then they beat everyone, and then they beat the teams, and then the Thieves match up, they started shooting, they felt confident, and I think as soon as they won that map 1, I think the tournament was over. They were beating everyone, and now it's looking scary. As we head into Major 1, what we didn't want to do is feed the beast. We did not want to feed Atlanta FaZe any confidence, you know? And I think, I see people saying on the flank, I saw Zuma saying it as well, they came back early, you know, Beezy, and then they put work in, and I think it's showing. Right now, I will say, you know, they look good. They look really good. And I know people say, oh, you know, they didn't beat Optic yet in the, you know, but they beat Ravens, and they actually outclassed Ravens, and Ravens kind of, you know, they beat Optic. So I look at that as a bit of a triangle and say, you know, it could have been a great showing if Optic beat Ravens. I thought it'd be a really fun matchup, FaZe Optic in the final. But for now, FaZe look really good. I have to give credit where credit's due. They just look really good. I think Simp is he's doing Simp stuff again, man. We saw Cold War. The thing about FaZe in Cold War, where I thought they were so good, is their floor. Their floor in a team in Cold War, their floor was like top 2, top 3. Like, there was no point of the year where I thought these were not a top 3 team, right? Atlanta FaZe. They were top 2, maybe top 1 for majority of the year. But, well, yeah, they were top 1 for majority of the year, actually. They were unbelievable. This year, it's very similar to Cold War with a bit more movement. I don't know. They could have a scary year. We just have to shut them down. If you're any other team right now, you need to shut down FaZe, because these guys, when they're having fun, when they're playing with confidence, it just looks really scary. And you can see it. Like, they're losing, like, games to, like I said, they lost map 1 to Heretics. They lost this series to Ravens earlier in the season. They just didn't look anywhere near they are now, and it's really weird with FaZe. I don't know what it is. Sometimes they go through these random stages where they either lack confidence or execution. I don't know what it is. I just really can't put an eye on it. I watch a lot of Call of Duty, and when I watch FaZe, I really don't know who's going to turn up. But one thing I do realize with these players, it is very momentum based. If they have a bad game, it kind of carries on through, and we saw it a lot last year in the grand finals, and last year before that. Like, there's a lot of a mental block in Atlanta FaZe, and I think if they can clear that through and they're playing with confidence, I do believe they make a big difference and they become the scariest team in the game. And I'm going to say it, even though I'm an Optic fan, I think FaZe's ceiling is just, it might be number 1. It's so high. When all 4 players are playing well, this team is unbelievably scary, and I am quite worried as an Optic fan because they won Minor 1 and we don't know what's going to happen going forward. Now we move on to the next team, and I have to say, this team coming into the CDL, people were laughing at, myself included. I wasn't exactly laughing, but I thought they made a bad choice. And I have to say, when people criticize players, it's quite harsh on the players. I think people have to owe this team an apology. Boston Breach, wow, round of applause. I think they have looked incredible for the standards people had on them. They have looked so much better. The players are playing with confidence. Their S&D is so good to watch. They look like a real unit, a good team. You're seeing brilliance out of Awakening, out of Cammy. Purge was like a fantastic player. Snoopy mechanically was so good. You're starting to see him put the pieces together, and I'm a big fan of this Boston team. The way they're playing, I'm really liking them. They're such a big underdog for me that I'm just supporting them when I can. I really like them. And again, just looking at the offseason, like, people kind of started laughing at them and said they should have made changes, and I agree 100% with the market being open the way it was and stuff. I do think they messed up in terms of, like, you know, pre-season, not even looking at the market, playing with the EWC team. And I think it was a really risky, really bold move, and hats off to them. They're doing a fantastic job, and I just really want to give credit where credit's due. I think I won't even look at a roster change right now. I'll just see what's working, keep our S&D, keep working on our practice. One thing I would say is, again, if I'm a team like Boston, if I'm, you know, Shawnee, maybe the coach or anyone like that, I'm like, listen, we came in this as underdogs. People now know we're here to play. Let's keep this momentum up. Let's make sure we make champs this year. Last year they were absolutely terrible. people, you know, Snoopy. I'm talking to Snoopy. I'm like, bro, Snoopy, like, you're him, bro. Like, you're seeing players like Shotzi and Hydra, like you could maybe be that one day that I'm trying to give Snoopy unbelievable confidence, Awakening, Cammy, these guys can shoot. Purge, such an underrated player. He's had so many like laughable moments last year where people kind of laughed at him like, oh, this guy doesn't belong in the league. Like, these guys are such an underdog story that people want to support them or hate on them. You're gonna have either side, but you know, you can use that as fuel. If I'm Boston, I'm all right, let's show these guys we can play. Let's show them how good we really are. And I really like this Boston team. I think they've done a fantastic job so far. As an Optic fan, when I went up against them, I wasn't like, oh, you know, easy 3-0. I was like, oh, okay, these guys kind of scary, bro. These guys are here to play, and they had a fantastic series against them, took them to the map 5 again against a better team. They're taking the distance. Snoopy, one of my favorite players to watch. His POV is just so good to watch, and yeah, I really like this team. Cammy, you know, what a player from Cold War, and everyone, he was so good in Cold War that people still talk about it. That's how good he was that year. There's not a lot of players that have that one year that stand out so much that you keep referring back to, but that's how good he was in that Cold War year. I think him going to challengers, maybe reuniting that passion and just saying, you know what, I am good, get that confidence back. The team's playing well, and I really hope they continue to do so. Speaking of playing well, the next team we're going to go through is Carolina, can't speak English, Carolina Real Ravens, and wow, once again, hats off. This team as being fantastic. Slasher, he's reunited somewhere. He's got the passion again. He's flowing. He's shooting. Last year, he didn't even go challenges. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna take a time off. I'm gonna relax a little bit. So this team it looks incredible, man. It look incredible. Even like on paper, when I saw this team, I was like, you know what? Like, it has the potential. I just didn't know how well they're going to be in respawn. But for me, Gwyn is the player you got to build around. Gwyn is so good. You know, when you look at this team, I think if you look at this team a few years ago, you see Vivid, Gwyn, and TJ just on paper, right? And they've all got different elements. I think Gwyn is just the best player on this team in terms of all-round slaying ability. I think having a slayer like that, especially against a top 3, I think that's where these mid teams normally start to struggle, in my opinion, is just having that skill difference, right? So having like a superstar player like Gwyn is really handy. Then you got TJ. For me, he is not as good in the respawns, but he makes up for it in his S&Ds, right? He can kind of guarantee an S&D performance, which is so crucial. And then you have Slasher, who in my opinion is very similar to TJ, right? He's going to be more of an S&D player, but he's also doing his thing in respawn. So when you have Slasher playing well in respawn, Gwyn doing kind of everything, TJ again kind of excelling in the S&D, I think you do need a little bit more out of him in the respawn if you're trying to really compete with the top 3. I think they're doing fantastic right now, but if you really want to step it up, I think TJ has to do a bit better in the respawn. And then you have Vivid. Now, the reason why the Vivid one's interesting for me is because in previous years, Vivid's obviously an SMG, right? You have a naturally faster player. The fact that he's gone to the AR role, I think can really help this team, because I do believe if this team had a different AR other than Vivid and a slower AR, I think that's when there could be some inconsistencies with the pacing, right? But I think having Vivid, Gwyn, and TJ on the respawn, with Slasher just letting him play how he wants to, you know, being comfortable in his own pacing, I really believe if Vivid finds his footing with an AR and keeps up that more aggressive natural pacing, I really like this team. Gwyn, I actually have no doubt he'll continue his form. I think if TJ can just kind of slightly improve in the respawn, keep his S&D form, which has been fantastic, and Slasher, just, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, he's been very impressive. So keep the way he's playing. This team for me, really good contenders. I do think they can steal a Sunday spot at the major, and just, you know, you never know what happens on a Sunday, man. You never know what happens on a Sunday. Can they win an event this year? I think outside of the top 3, them and Toronto are my favorites. I don't know if they will win a major, but I can see them competing. And to be honest, if you ask them before the season, any of these 4 players, you guys can be competing on Sunday, I think they'll take that. They'll take that, and then on the day, see what happens. So very good showing from them so far. And I mean, they've taken top teams out. They've taken out Optic. They played FaZe a decent series. They've been good. They've been very good, and we have to give them credit where credit's due. Moving on to the 4th team, we're going to be talking about Cloud9. Now, Cloud9's a bit of a weird one for me. Now, this is where we can... It's a weird one, man. It's a weird one. On paper, before the season started, I would say my 4th team would be between them, Ravens, and Toronto. And I think they've just kind of gone a tier below now. And for me, before we talk about roster changes and stuff, I just look at Sib and I say, you know what? You want to be that superstar player. I really like Sib. I think he's a great player, one of the best shots in the game. And I think he's got that takeover potential. I actually really backed him for like a scrappy replacement last year when the rumors are flying. I thought he could go to Toronto and be a scrappy replacement. My point is, I think he's a very good AR. And I look at this team and say, you know what? This is your chance, bro. This is your chance to just prove how good you are and be him. And I look at someone like Ghosty last year, and I believe the Ghosty team last year, and I look at this team now, I think this team's better than last year's, right? You got Kremp, Attach, and Mac, where they had Kremp, Joe, and Nasty. I mean, I think it's very similar. I think it's very similar. But I look at that and I say, like, I need Sib to be Ghosty version. Like, the way Ghosty was last year was so impactful. And I need Sib to just have that takeover, bro. I need him to have that takeover. And then I can judge his roster properly. So I think it's still early. They've had a lot of forgays with, you know, the roster, the server issues and stuff like that. So I definitely do kind of want to give them some time. I think after Major 1, where we can have some conversations and see what happens. But there is another option out there. There is a big free agent on the market, the boy Pred. Now, this is where things get interesting, because right now I'm talking about Sib's form, but if one of the SMGs struggle, like in my head, I'm like, imagine you can just get Pred for example, Kremp. You're looking at the same Seattle team that you had on Vanguard that won a major and was very good. So now you got Accuracy as a coach and Attach as the AR. So, you know, we have had that roster before. I don't know, maybe they bring it back, maybe they do something like that. But again, it just really comes down to, for me, step one is getting Sib to fix his form, wherever that means. I don't know what they need to change, but I think Sib just needs to play better. And then we can start to think, all right, what can we do? Can we make a roster change or this or that? But I'm not too high on this team right now. I'm really not. I don't look at this team as a very scary team, if I'm honest with you. I don't look at this team like, oh, they're going to compete for championships right now. Like, I look at Ravens and I'm like, I really like the way the team's playing. I like everything about Ravens right now. And I say, you know what? I can see them on a Sunday. I can see them sneaking a win over a top 3 team, maybe losing in the finals, something. I can see them just competing. But right now, I look at this team and I just don't see them having the same level. Can they compete? Absolutely. It's Call of Duty. On any day, people can compete. However, right now, I just don't see them having that I just don't see them having that potential, and I want to see more from them. So we're gonna have a few more weeks of the CDL, and then I'll probably, you know, give another opinion on them. But for right now, not too high on them. I think they're a tier below the Toronto and the Ravens team, where I expected them to be competing with them. I think right now they're just a tier below. Speaking of underperforming, we have another team that I really wanted to do well. We have LAG. Now, this team is basically a photocopy of Modern Warfare 2's team, where they were absolutely dominant. However, they took out Hydra for Linz. Now, first of all, in the Hydra for Linz, obviously it's funny because they're both French. People are like, oh, he's literally trying to photocopy and replace him. But I genuinely believe Linz is a good player. I do think Linz is a very good player. Does he have the takeover potential that Hydra has? Honestly, he does at times, but just not to that level. Now, that's not a discredit to Linz, because like I said, he's a good player. He's a very good player. I liked him in Modern Warfare 3. He kind of declined towards the end of the year, but at the start of the year, in the middle, I thought he was a really good player. This year, I think he's been their best player. I think he's been very good. Priester, I need to see more of. Like, it's just, for me right now, I think people are saying like, oh, you know, Hydra did it, why can't Linz? But I honestly believe, if you look at the Modern Warfare 2 team, like, yes, Hydra was unbelievable, but you had Kismet being MVP worthy as well. You had Priester and Skies also playing really well. I think he needs help, bro. I think right now, Linz is getting some really harsh critics, in my opinion. People are complimenting Linz, saying he's playing well, but I've seen a lot of takes saying, you know, he can't be Hydra, this and that. I'm like, bro, I think he's doing really well, man. I think he's doing his 25%, and I just think his team needs to do better. I really believe his team need to do more. I believe they're winless. They're closing in, and now one thing about this team is what they've notoriously done in the last few years is they've always tried to play perfect Call of Duty, and sometimes people critique them for that, which sounds weird, but sometimes they try to play too perfect, right? If you guys play Call of Duty at any level, you know that the game's always scrappy and it's all situations, all awareness. And yes, you can have a situation in your head, right? Like a perfect setup, a perfect drill, a perfect situation, but most of the time the game's on the fly. Most of the time the game's on the fly, and you're really just picking up situations. And I think sometimes they try to be too perfect and it kind of costs them. So I definitely want to see this team be a bit more free. And Priester, man, I need this guy to just get some confidence from somewhere, which isn't easy to do. It's easy to say. I can just get some confidence, but no, this guy needs to, like, bro, sit back, watch your Black Ops 4 highlights, but you know, that was me, bro. Like, just find some sort of inspiration. I'm like, all right, I can be him. I need to step up, because this guy, when he's playing well, is so useful. You know, I look at this guy as like for me, I look at Priester as a calmer type of player. When I say that, like Damon Barlow, is because Karma could play any role, any system, any team, and just fit in like a glove. And I genuinely believe Priester is that level of, that type of player. He's just not showing that level right now. When he won champs, you could say that, yeah, he played like Karma, right? But now you're just seeing him on the decline, and we need him to get some inspiration from somewhere. And I just think he needs to pick up more kills on the map. Like, just pick up more kills on the map, make the game easier for your team. And I just overall think this team definitely needs some work on it. In terms of roster change, I don't even know what the straight solution is, so I wouldn't even think about roster change right now. Like, maybe you can look at challenger players, like, oh, maybe we can get Illian for someone, something like that. But like, for now, I mean, we're still early in the season, right? So I think after Major 1 is where roster changes should happen. For me, I know Aches talks about early, like, you should make roster changes, but for me, it's like at least give it a major. I do understand the point of, you don't want to let the players go, right? Like, you don't want to let Illy or Pred or these players go to a team where now you don't have the option, just like Hook went, right? So I do definitely see that side of it. But however, like, I think you need, if you feel like your team's got potential and you put in so much work daily in the scrims and this and that, like, I think you can give it to the first major, see how you play on LAN. If you don't feel like you're connecting or whatever the situation, maybe then make a change. It's a little bit more risky, but I do think that this team should definitely stick together, see how they do on LAN, because it's got potential, man. It's got potential. I don't know. It's just, for me, I need more slaying from this team. I need more consistency. And every game we get so scrappy. I want to see a 3-0 win from them just to clean it out, man. I feel like they've had so many just mixy game 5s and they're just not able to close out those games. And I definitely want to see them improve. And I definitely want to see them just give Lin some support and build some confidence. For me, it starts with Priest stuff. For me, Priest is the most important player in this piece. He needs to go back to that form. He needs to go back to slaying out and just making the game easier on his team. Eve's roster, I mean, superstar after just everything. This team's got everything. You got your Envoy, you got your Route Man, you got Ghosty. Like I mentioned last year, was such an unbelievable player with a mid-tier roster, really standing out. He could do the OBJ, he can slay out. The guy's an absolute unit. And then you have one of my favorite POVs in the history of Call of Duty. You got Mr. Hydra, MVP, champs winner. The guy's disgusting. And then, you know, Scrap. I mean, people hate him. He's a villain in the CDL, but he is one of my favorite players in the CDL era as an Optic fan. I hate going against him. I love when he plays my rivals. When he play FaZe, I'm team Scrap, bro, every time. This guy's one of my favorite POVs. He just shit talks and I really like it. I feel like he's like, oh, bro, he's like a modern version of Aches, but I like him. Where Aches really annoyed me because he was so anti-Optic, but like Scrap, I just really like Scrap, bro. I think he's a great player. Such a fun POV. I watch his streams all the time. Anyways, enough glazing this team. This team's unbelievable. S-tier team. Now, for me, I saw Nadeshot's tweet. I saw everything about Nadeshot's tweet. Now, look, you have to remember, chap, we are fans that watch this, right? Like, I am passionate about Optic. Bro, this guy's an org owner, bro. This is his team. Like imagine being a player and then owning an org, and that's your team. That, bro, you can say what you want, bro. Hex, Nade, these guys, that's their team, bro. He can say what he wants. Now, I've seen people again saying, oh, he doesn't even say that's one series, this and that, bro. Let him say what he wants, bro. It's fine. Like, it's his team, and I'm sure they're winners, bro. All 4 of those players are winners. Now, Ghosty hasn't actually won anything, but he's a winner. He's won challenges, but he's not won anything in the CDL, and he's hungry as ever. The guy wants chips. He's unbelievable. The other 3 have all won stuff. These guys are winners, bro. Envoy and Hydra are both champs winners. Like, these guys are winners. They're not going to be heartbroken what Nade said. They're going to be, all right, let's lock in. Now, for them, they probably didn't care about this as much as a major, right? And in this situation with Christmas and New Year's and the holidays and stuff, they obviously came back late. I know Hydra went back to France, had to sort out his visa, I believe, and stuff like that. So they definitely didn't have as much practice, and FaZe came back early. And I genuinely believe that series was just that. I believe it was just a bit of a mismatch in terms of practice. I think FaZe just looked a lot more sharper. They were a lot quicker. And I believe these were just a bit slower. That's what it was. Now, I could just say that that's it. It was a one-off series, and it probably was. However, one thing I do believe in is momentum and confidence and just mental side of the game. And this is a really big point from last year, right? If you guys remember Modern Warfare 3 last year, do you remember when Toronto were playing really good at the start? And I believe it was FaZe or someone, I can't remember who it was, but Toronto basically gave them a good map and they won the game. And I remember Aches had a really faded take where he said, it's all mind games, it doesn't matter if they won, they can underestimate them. Some stupid shit like that. But Octane made a really good point that I agreed with. He said that if you're like an unbelievable team right now, you do not want to lose momentum, whether it's a whatever. Like, you just want to make sure that the team are scared of you and play with confidence and stay ahead. Like, that series slowed them down, and then you saw the momentum switch. We saw it with Simps 1 before. Like, momentum is such a big thing in Call of Duty because the timing's all about milliseconds, right? So if you're playing with confidence and you're challenging shit that you wouldn't normally chow, or you're second guessing yourself if you're scared, like, the confidence is such a big factor, a part of your game, that the more wins you get under your belt, the more kind of confidence that you feel in your team, the better you're going to play. Just simple as that. So I do believe this team that lost, I don't think it will hurt them long run, but you know, if they won minor 1 as well as winning the case online and they, you know, top of the leaderboards, like, they just go into major 1 with so much more confidence, in my opinion, than they will now. Now, maybe for them it makes no difference. I don't know. I'm not in their heads, but just as like a surrounding, just as like the environment, it would have been nice for them to win this as well. And their confidence, already knowing that they're the best team in the game, having that win as well, just now we perform on LAN. But like I said, doesn't mean too much. They lost. It's not the end of the world. I think now that they're all back, they're all scrimming and stuff. I think now that the second start of the second like part of Major 1, you know, I think now teams are going to kick on again and we're going to really see who's the best team. FaZe, I think we're ahead because they came out early and they're just unbelievable players, but this Thieves team I am such a big fan of. Very, very scary team. The thing about this team why I think they're just so scary is because, like, I just think I mean, like, they have so I looked at the FaZe team and I said they got superstars and stuff, and I think this team's just exactly the same thing, bro. Like, I think every position they're stacked, and I genuinely believe it's going to be a triangle with Optic, FaZe, and Thieves, and it really, really is going to come to on the day who performs better. But this team for me, unbelievable. And I just think Hydra, bro, Hydra for me is just like, he's such an interesting POV to watch. You watch him and you're like, bro, this guy can, like, I know a lot of people could do it, but I genuinely, this guy can single-handedly just take over maps that I've not seen before. I think him and Simp have that ability. I will say Shotzzy as well. Like, those three, I mean, again, I don't want to say I don't want to say people because there's so many other players as well, but like, they just have that ability to just take over series, take over maps. And yeah, I mean, this team's unbelievable. Nothing else to say. I just think they're doing a great job. They did really good. Again, they had a little slip up at minor 1 against FaZe. It happens. Let's really test them at the major and see what happens there. On to Miami Heretics. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there's really not much to say for me. Whenever a team kind of like nation or region locks themselves, I do think that it's a bit of an issue. The reason why is because what they're banking on is the best Spanish players in the world, for example, are going to be better than the other best players in the world, if that makes sense. So they're kind of banking on the best Spanish players in the world are better than the best American players, essentially, or Canadian or stuff like that. So for me, I kind of like, in one way, oh, you know, you got a brand, you got an entity, you know, the Spanish fans will love them, stuff like that. Like, I do get that side, absolutely. You know, the Miami Heretics, you want your team to be around, you know, I get it, I completely get it. But I just think this team, for me, is like a mid-pack team. Again, not in a disrespectful way, I'm not saying they're terrible, but they just kind of like, they're kind of just in the mid-pack. I think they're generally just a filler team in the mid-pack. They could have upset potential at times. If a team's not playing well, maybe they play up to them, but that's all. That's literally it for me. They're just a mid-pack team. The best way I'll put it, if it was like Miami versus like LAG or someone like that, like, I genuinely wouldn't know what to do. Like, this team is just so random. They're such a mid-pack team. One thing I will say is I think they're really struggling in S&D. I can't remember their record exactly. This is all just off the fly. I don't have any stats right now, but I don't think their S&D has been very good. And that's a very big game mode, because last year, like MW3 again, they were playing good S&D, man. They were playing good S&D at the end. S&D is so important because you can be a bit more consistent in S&D. Hardpoint with the pacing and the timings and everything can be sometimes a bit harder to compete with, but with S&D, you know, it's all about strats and composure and execution, and you know, the more reps you have, it's more pattern based in my opinion, and it's more system based, and say, you know what, we did this well, we did this one. They can really take out good teams. We saw it against FaZe. Like, bro, they got 1v4. Like, that's such a stupid 1v4 to lose as well, and it's just like the momentum from there. Now, I know it's FaZe, right? They won the minor, so obviously in hindsight you could say, oh, it's FaZe, but at that time, like, they were up 1-0, you're in a 1v4 and you just lose a stupid 1v4, and then you just get like smoked from there. So I'm like, things like that, I'm just like, I think this team definitely needs to be a bit more resilient in those situations, but they're okay. They're just a mid-pack team. Nothing good, nothing bad. I like the roster. Again, just a mid-pack team in my opinion, which is okay. Moving on to Rocker. Rocker is a surprising team. Now, when I see this team on paper at the start of the season, I did have in my head, the way I looked at this team was, it's going to be a mid-pack team that, if they play well, will potentially be close in some series and this and that. I just thought there'd be a mid-pack team, and what I thought was, in the 4 players, whoever doesn't play well will potentially be dropped by a challenger player. For example, this was before Hook joined, right? I could see, like, you know, Estrio maybe drop for Hook, or maybe like Pool X for Illy or stuff like that. Like, I generally thought like this team would be like a mid to bottom tier team, and I thought the top challenger players will kind of rotate in and out, and it'll be a bit of a kind of just like a Fugazi season where they kind of just keep mixing and dropping challenger players and picking up stuff like that. That's what I generally thought. Wow, they've surprised everyone. They've been very good. Like I said, all 4 of these players I thought could play good. I just didn't think they would together. I really didn't. I just didn't think that these 4 players would play good together. I thought it would be a day where, you know, Nero plays really well and Gio plays really well, and then Estrio and Pool X play terrible, or Estrio and Pool X play really well and Nero and Gio play terrible. But they've been really good. If they can just keep up their teamwork, they've had fantastic teamwork, and keep on playing these games. I know people look at them and say, oh, game 5 every time. I generally don't think it's a bad thing, because one, you're getting ice, you're getting more reps in, you're getting more maps than everyone else, and you have more to learn from. Your sample size, instead of having, you know, okay, don't get me wrong, 3-0s, everyone's obviously good as well, right? It's obviously great. But if you're going to win and you get a 3-2, I don't think you mind that, because now you have 5 maps to look back on and see what went wrong in the 2 losses. Even in the wins, you could look back and see what you could have done to make it more smooth. I don't know. I think they're playing really good Call of Duty. I think Nero's been very, very good, man. Really, really good. They've all had their moments, man. Paul's been good at the start. I think Paul was really good during the major, during the minor, like, qualifiers, the major and qualifiers, sorry. I think Nero this weekend was really, really good. I really liked him. Gio and Estrio, they've been good as well, but for me, I think Estrio was pretty good this weekend. I kind of want to see a little bit more of Gio. The only reason why I say that, he's not been bad by any means, but I look at this team and say, like, I want Gio to be that kind of leader, and I really, really liked Gio last year. I thought he was a great player. And I just look at this team and say, right, Gio, this is your chance. Again, I'm going to go back to that ghosty point, because I think it's very, very important. Just be that ghosty, bro. Be that guy. Say, you know, I'm taking over this game. I'm going to be him. I'm going to be the leader for the team. And I'm just going to be him, bro. I'm going to be him. And I want to see that from Gio, because I think he has a potential. And yeah, like I said, as long as they keep playing the way they are, I actually see them doing really well. Like, bro, we saw them take FaZe to a map 5. Like, again, like, these guys are playing really good. I see them potentially making it Sunday, but even then, like, even making like a late tournament run into Saturday and getting, you know, like, winning the first 2 rounds, whatever, like, these guys are just impressing me right now. They're kind of on the top third of the bracket. I would say they're kind of like, they're just below, like, to be honest, they're kind of competing with the Torontos and the Ravens, like maybe just below Ravens, around there. But I don't know, they're doing really good. I really like what I'm seeing from them, and yeah, they're really, really impressing me so far. So keep it up for them. They're doing a great job. Now we move on to my team, OpticTexas. Wow, speaking of, well, I didn't speak about roller coasters, but roller coasters, okay, that didn't make sense. Let's start that one again. OpticTexas, when I think of this season so far, what a roller coaster. Winning champs, losing at EWC, that was okay. You know why? The vibes were flowing. We just saw an absolute kind of like shift. I saw a massive shift in the team, the confidence, everything after champs. You know, coming into this year, I felt good, bro. I felt good. And then randomly, Twitter explodes, Fred being dropped, this, that, personal issues, everything. I don't really want to get into it. All I know is that, you know, I think they left on good terms. He seems to be okay. He's streaming. The vibes are there. I'm watching him stream. He seems happy. And I'm really glad that it's nothing very severe. Again, I don't really want to get into the personal life. I just, you know, I like Fred as a person from what we've seen. For me, good luck to him. He provides so much entertainment for the Green Wall. I was really, really a big fan of Pred even before he joined in Vanguard. He was one of my favorite players. I really wanted him on Optic, and it's kind of sad for me not having him on Optic, because he was such a passionate player, and I just really liked having him a part of the team. As a fan, he was like, you know, let's go, we got Pred. So it's obviously really sad seeing him not being a part of the team. Maybe one day he comes back, but for now, like I said, we're going to move on for that. And I want to respect Hook as well, because Hook's come in. I think people looked at this roster before and said, like, who can we get, bro? Hook was frying in challenges, and again, fair play to the guy. He was lights out, the best challenger player for the first like month of the game, and then he gets picked up to Optic, backward Shotzi, after that whole roller coaster, this and that. Now we have this new team. Wow. Dashi, Hook, Kenny, Shotzi. Now with Dashi, bro, if you guys have been paying attention to his streams or just generally the way he's approaching the game now, I think him winning champs was like a sigh of relief that, oh my god, like, yes, I'm him. I have the best shot in the world. I am the most talented player in the game if I want to be, but I can play like this. I can play more for the team, let my teammates excel, and win the game. And I have to say again, I don't know, I'm not in the conversation, but someone like Kenny being there, just him and Dash as an AR duo, will probably be one of my favorite ever AR duos in a few years once they carry on, because they're just, the dynamic they have is incredible. Kenny's one of the smartest players I think we've had in Call of Duty. He's won 2 rings, he's won countless of championships, and having someone like Dashi next to him now, who's just an unbelievable bag of talent, and just allowing him to play the right Call of Duty now. Then you have Shotzi, the most slippery player in the league, the most annoying player to play against, you know, in his flow state. He's just unbelievable, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've got so much talent on this team. And then Hook and Shotzi, they won champs before. Shotzi has mentioned so many times how well they played together. I just think when this team clicks, they're gonna be like a very, very, very talented team with very, very good teamwork. And I genuinely believe there's going to be times of the year where they are going to be better than Thieves and FaZe, because they're going to have perfect skill with perfect teamwork. And I think when that kind of goes together is when they'll win the major, right? So the way it looks like for me is the top 3 teams have the same ceiling, which is going to be flawless, basically, where they're all playing unbelievable. And that's such a hard thing to consistently achieve because of how many micro decisions there are. So it's just going to be about who can execute on the day. and who can be more consistent with that, right? And I generally believe Optic, like we saw it last year, they lost Major 5 or something. I can't remember which. Yeah, was it Major 5 or am I tweaking? Yeah, they basically lost the Major. Yeah, and then they went into Champs and won it. But like, you could just see how inconsistent they were to becoming the best team and winning Champs. So for me, I'm not worried about this team. I love this team. I think it's a great team. They just won Champs last year. I don't really care that they lost to Minor. They've had a few close games. They've had a few Game 5s. They've had a few mixy games. They lost to Boston earlier in the season. They went to Game 5 against Boston now. They lost to Carolina. For me, it's about getting reps in, bro. The more reps they have now, the more losses they take now, the more they can learn from. And like I said, I think Dashi right now, I'm going to say it, he's been my favorite and the best player in Black Ops 6. I'm going to say it right there. Dashi has been so far for me the best player in Black Ops 6. I think he's been unbelievable. And yeah, I think they've been really good. And I'm excited to see them win everything, including Champs one more time. Okay, I do need to wrap this video up. I've got a call. I didn't even realize I've been talking for half an hour. This is what happens when I talk about Call of Duty, man. I just start talking and talking and talking. Hopefully you guys are listening though. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. If you guys do like this as well, we're going to do more CDL type content like this, where we're just going to kind of spoon the background. You guys hopefully can listen to audio and stuff like that. Because for me, when I'm at gym and stuff, I like listening to like the flank and stuff. So hopefully I can make this more of like a CDL talk show for people just to chill, enjoy. You don't have to really watch it. It's gonna be my gameplay in the background and just kind of, you know, relax and enjoy it. Hopefully you guys can have your opinions down below. But moving on to Toronto Ultra. Wow, this team, bro. I saw this team on paper and I was instantly impressed by it. I knew it would be an amazing team, and they've shown out, bro. I think they've been really good. Cleanix and Joe, the pacing they set, they might be the most like, I think they might be the fastest duo to play against in the league, and I think they just set the tempo. And I think the tempo that they set just allows Inside to play his game as well, because you've got more of an aggressive play with Beans. I just really like the dynamic. I think this team has a fantastic dynamic. They got an unfortunate loss on the weekend. I think they really kind of trolled that one. I'm not gonna lie. I think they trolled. They lost against Rocker, but Rocker are a gritty team. We kind of went through it earlier. I think they played that really poor, man. They just kind of trolled at the end. There was a reset cheese as well, but they have to be winning that. They have to be closing it out. I just really like this team, bro. I think Cleanix, again, he's in his bag this year, and Joe, unbelievable player. There's nothing more to say. This team, for me, this team is kind of just below that top 3. I think them and Ravens are very similar together. Ravens maybe just slightly ahead, just purely on form, but even then, I think both teams are very good, and there's no doubt in my mind they're going to make a Sunday. And they win a major? Maybe. I think if they get a favorable bracket, they match up against, you know, for me right now, I just look at the top 3 teams and I say, like, I don't think this team will beat a top 3 team right now on LAN, but could they beat them? Yes. It's just, if I had to bet, I would say like 6 or 7 times maybe the top 3 team would win, FaZe, Optic or Thieves against this team. Maybe 6 out of 10 times I would back the other team. Maybe 4 out of 10 times I'd back this team. It really just depends, man. I like this team a lot. I just think there's just that one bit of layer where it will take them to reach that top 3. However, with some good Call of Duty, some, you know, some patience, just making sure they're playing the right way, I don't see why this team can't compete with the very best, man. I really like it. The S&D is so strong. Insight for me is one of those players that you'll never see a pro kind of shit talk in terms of like, say, oh, this guy needs to be dropped, because he makes so many icy plays. Yes, sometimes the stat line doesn't reflect how good he is, but he makes so many icy plays for his team. And just like, I don't know, man, I really like this team, bro. I think it's one of the most fun teams for me to watch. I love seeing the dynamic of Joe and Cleanix together. I love seeing Beans just slay out. And then again, Insight just kind of does his thing. This right now reminds me of last year's Toronto. I think last year's Toronto was a bit better on paper. However, because Envoy didn't really perform, I think it kind of balanced out. I think Scrap like was a bit better than Beans, where Envoy was a bit worse than Joe Deceives. Now, I'm not saying Envoy is a worse player than Joe Deceives, but the last year version of Envoy was a worse version than this version of Joe Deceives. I hope that makes sense. I'm not saying Envoy is a worse player, but he played worse last year. So for me, it kind of evens out, and this year they kind of just look like last year's Toronto, but a little bit more balanced. So I really like this team, and I think they're going to have a fantastic season. Maybe they win a chip as well. Who knows? We're going to find out very shortly, because Major 1 is just around the corner. Moving on to the next roster. Where is it? Oh my god, I've lost my mouse. Where is it? There you go. It's Surge, Seattle Surge. Let me get that ready. 2 more rosters to go. Seattle Surge. Okay, when we look at this team, I'm not going to lie. It's not a great team. Now, this sounds harsh. I just think a lot of these players... Nah, this is a harsh take. This is a harsh take. I just think a lot of these players... how do I say this? I just think it's a mid to low tier team. In the CDL, like, these players are good. I just think it's a mid to low tier team. And I really just think a Booz has to step up if this team's going to perform. Like, he has to be the superstar, bro. 04 for me has to be that TJ Halley in S&D. right? That kind of version where he's just taken over S&Ds. If this team needs to succeed, Abuza just has to be him. He simply just has to be him. Hixie, again, his whole thing is like, oh, you know, he can be the objective and this and that and this and that. I think in this league now, with how competitive it is as well, like, that's definitely good to have, but you need a Slayer as well, though, right? You need to be able to do a bit of both. And same with Nasty as well. We've seen a little bit of glimpses of Nasty like this year, last year. We need this guy to be a bit more polished. I think I look at this team and I'm like, you know what, like, I don't know. I look at this team and they don't have a lot of intimidation for me as a player. Like, as a player looking at competition, if I'm like, oh, okay, if I'm playing against this team and I'm like C9 or, you know, or even Rock or all these teams, I'm like, I think the other team, I'm always going to back the other team. So right now, I look at this team and I'm like, I just think they got to put in more work than the other teams. Another thing I would say is, like, there's clearly going to be some sort of difference, right? Whether it's talent or this or that, this and that. But I'm like, in my opinion, that could be learned as well. So it's like, well, if I'm this team, if I'm Rambo, right? I'm like, all right, listen, boys, like, we are not as good as these other teams, but we can get there. We need to put in more work, more hours, more everything, more attention, more energy, more focus, more work, everything than the other teams, because we're playing catch up, and playing catch up is a scary game, but you need to do it. So right now, if I'm like these teams, I'm just staying locked in, I'm focused, I'm not worrying about the game state, about this is shit, this, that. I'm just literally locking in, getting better, and just making sure I'm catching up. I'm literally watching the CDL matches back. I'm watching Thieves, I'm watching FaZe play. Like, bro, what the fuck did FaZe do? Why are they so much better than us? Because I think they're out-talenting us. I think they're better than us. However, we saw this with Rocker. We saw these teams like Carolina, like these teams that maybe aren't as good on paper or individually, they are playing good Call of Duty. We need to be the same level. So I just think they have to put that extra gear in and get to work, because Abuza especially can be that catalyst for this team. He can take over. I just look at this team and I just don't think it has a very, very high potential, but the potential is higher than they're currently playing at. So I think this could be a mid-table team. I think they got to clean up their gameplay a little bit to get. And then we move on to our last team. It's going to be the boys, Vegas Falcons. Now, Vegas Falcons, there's a lot of kind of a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, their best player, which is, I believe I say it's Kicks. I believe that's right as I say it. He was the best player. For me, Exnid was actually kind of close. I think people not disrespected Exnid, but I think they were making it like Kicks was the only shooter. Where I was like, bro, Exnid is good, bro. I thought Exnid was a very good player. I said this for quite a while. And I think when Kicks gets back in this roster, I think King Booty did struggle a little bit, quite a bit when he was here. He's now in the Challenger team. I think, you know, if they keep Exnid, Kicks, maybe they keep Roxas and then one of the other two, Doom, or I believe is let me see, WXSL. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce or butcher any names, that's on me. But I think this team is just like, it's like they don't have a lot of expectations going into it. It's a very, very tough thing to go into a new country, a new league, and kind of just get thrown in there, to be honest. So I think this team is just one of those where, you know, they can shoot and they've got Claystar. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time to all gel together. They obviously had some roster moves, this and that. So I'm not looking at this team like, oh my God, they're terrible, they need to be dropped. I'm just looking at this team like, the more games they go without a win, the one thing you don't want to have is a team that's really, really struggling and they are out of champs early on. It kind of just messes up the whole league whenever they play that team, because like last year with Boston, if anyone played Boston and Boston were out of champs, it was just so boring. It didn't mean anything. So for the sake of the league, for the sake of them and the pressure and, you know, everything, I do want them to do well. I do want them to do well, and I hope that they can fix their form, hope their player can come back, hope Kicks can come back, and you know, they can build some momentum off that, because right now it's been a rocky start. They obviously haven't got any wins. They've had a few close maps here and there. They've taken FaZe, you know, I believe they got a map against FaZe. They almost got a map against Optic. They played well against Optic. That map won. Here, Exit broke the kill record. Again, just like things like that. If you're breaking the kill record, you just got to be closing out the maps. Just little things like that. I think they just got to clean up their game. But they're putting in time. I see them doing not wages, but I see them like streaming rank play, playing 8, stuff like that. So they're definitely putting in the time. Again, it just comes down to how much they're behind the other teams. They just got to outwork them, man. They really got to outwork them. They got to be more, they got to be smarter than them, work harder than them, work smarter than them, everything. They just got to put in more than the other teams. And that's the problem with playing catch up, because if you're a team like Thieves, right, or FaZe, like right now FaZe are number 1 because they just won, for example. If FaZe are playing more than everyone and they're learning more than everyone and they're exceeding at a rate faster than everyone else as well, everyone else is in a bad spot because they're already playing catch up. So when you're playing catch up, you need to be basically lapping the other players. You need to be doing so much more than them that you're closing the gap. And that's the thing right now. It's just about how much more they can improve, where the other teams aren't improving that much. Well, that's the skill gap right now. And I don't know if it will happen. I do think they're going to get some wins under their belt, especially against the lower level teams, but they need to string some wins together, get some confidence, and get some CDL points, because I want to see these guys compete. That's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like. That's 40 minutes just absolutely waffling, talking about every single team. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like, and I'll catch you guys for another video, another CDL based video tomorrow. Peace.